Welcome in, friends and future friends, to the Sports and the World podcast. I'm Ladarius, hoping all of you are well and safe out there. I'm having a great hair day, as you can see. Lots to cover on the show today. We're going to talk about NFL Week 1. NFL is back. We're going to talk about Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about college football, including Arch Manning's performance. Bill Belichick will be a part of Brown's big picture, sneaking a little wrestling and more. But before we get started, I already see a comment in the chat from my guy, John Brooks. There's what up, my tribal chief. I acknowledge you. Thank you. Always important for the acknowledgement. Thank you. So let's get into it. Let's jump into the NFL. Season's gonna kick off. City of Brotherly Love Thursday night. It's gonna be the champs, the Eagles, hosting NFC East rival, the Dallas Cowboys. Look, it's one of those things where it's going to be very interesting. And then, we got my besties in here. Hey, Rachel, how are you? She'll be a future guest on the show. Don't worry about it. You'll get to see her, because she absolutely brings it. So this matchup is very interesting to me for a multitude of reasons. Listen, it's not just the Micah Parsons storyline. It's the storyline more so about like how is Dallas's defense going to look? Because obviously it's going to change. It's going to look different. But listen, this defense finished top 5 in sack percentage last season. People tend to forget that. Like, even though the record may not have reflected or things of that nature, but like Dallas offensively, they could throw the ball. Dak was fantastic. They had no run game, and then you go out, you get a Miles Sanders, you get a Jaden Blue. You try to improve the backfield to get some modicum of a run game, and as for the Eagles, like it's very hard to find a flaw. It really is. It's like somehow maybe they got better. Maybe, I don't know. But it's very interesting to me when I look at this matchup. It's like listen, I talked about it. I did previews. I did a preview of this game. I posted on my social at Ladarius_Brown on Twitter and the TikTok and on my Instagram, Ladarius _Brown, and I also posted it to the Sports in the World Facebook page as well. You could check out the NFL previews there all season long. Could Dallas win? Sure, but Dallas has struggled playing Philly in the last couple of visits, and some teams got your number. Philly's very good at home under Nick Sirianni. I talk about that in the video. So it feels like the penultimate question is going to be, what can Dallas do offensively to move against this against this stellar defense? That's going to be the key to this game, because for Philly, it's about Saquon and mixing in the pass with you got guys like A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. So to me, this is all about Dallas. Like, how is Dallas going to look? Because how do they move the ball down the field against a defense that was pretty good all season long? And not a lot of teams, really move the ball against Philly all season. So that's an interesting matchup there. Let me know. Drop in the comments. Who do you have winning? Do you have the Cowboys, or do you have the Eagles? So let me know in that regard. And then the second game, we go to Sao Paulo, the most populous city in Brazil. So a little fun fact to learn. This is an AFC West matchup, and to me, it's very interesting. You have the Chiefs and you have the Chargers. I think the big question here is, is this the year Kansas City doesn't make it to the AFC Championship game? Do they I'm not going to say they're not going to make the playoffs. Like, I'm not trying to say that by any stretch of the imagination. But like, we have a prediction here from John dropping in here with a prediction. I'm picking the Eagles. I like their run game. I think their defense will be a factor. I'm picking the Eagles because Dallas beat the Falcons on an onside. Oh man, don't remind me of that, John. Don't remind me of that. Like, we knew it existed, it happened, and we moved on. But John likes the Eagles. Rachel likes the Eagles. Like I say, Dallas, a lot of things have to go right for them to say to win. And like a lot of things have to go right on Dallas's end, because I think Philly, like I say, they've been great at home under Nick Sirianni. I talk about that in the video. But going back to the Chiefs and the Chargers, this matchup is interesting to me from dual perspectives. I think when I look at the Chiefs, like, their offense, they're not like as great as Patrick Mahomes is. Like, the run game, they didn't have a run game, and and they're going to be without Rashee Rice for a proponents of the season. What are we going to get from Pacheco? What are we going to get from Travis Kelce? Congrats to Travis and T Swift. But what are we going to get out of Travis Kelce? What are we going to get at this receiving core? Like, are we buying Xavier Worthy stock? Are we buying into Hollywood? Like, what stock? Like, it feels like it's Xavier Worthy. It would be the wide receiver one. And then John mentions a point, like, plus Dallas just traded away their best player to Green Bay. And I'm going to circle back to that in a minute, because that trade was interesting. That trade was interesting to say the least. But shifting back, I think for this Chiefs team, like the AFC West, it looks like it feels like it definitely feels like the Raiders are kind of low key rebuilding. Denver looks fantastic. Bo Nix and Sean Payton, that defense looks fantastic. And then the Chargers, to me, it's like, I'm not going to go on the thing and say, well, the Chargers, like, are they going to be healthy? I think that's going to be the major storyline. Like, is this Chargers team healthy? Are they going to be healthy? And Justin Herbert, I don't know why he gets the hate. Justin Herbert, you could argue maybe top 10 quarterback in the National Football League. And then you got a coach in Jim Harbaugh who eases the pressure off of excuse me, I can't talk tonight. Eases the pressure off of Justin with the run game, and then drafting Omarion Hampton, and what we're going to get from Najee. It's going to be an interesting matchup there in Brazil. And like, who do you guys have winning? Because to me, I don't think it's a lock for Kansas City to win. Kansas City's defense carried them last season. They were fourth. They were top 5 in the league in fewest points allowed per game. That Steve Spagnuolo defense did its job last season, and kind of carried a Chiefs team who didn't score 30 points in a game a lot, in a league that's all about scoring. And any other team, I would be concerned. But when you have Andy Reid and you have Patrick Mahomes, it kind of lessens the worry in the room. So I'm very curious to see about that matchup. I think, I just want to see. I want to see how the Chargers approach Kansas City's defense. I want to see, running the ball. And listen, the Chiefs, the Chargers got their number one receiver. They found a number one receiver in Ladd McConkey. What comes after that? Like the Quentin Johnston, they went out, added depth at the tight end position. The question becomes, how is this Chargers offense going to look from the passing perspective? Because Ladd's going to get his targets, but who's going to be the next guy on that team to get targets? That's going to be, to me, a huge question. And then we got my guy here, my tribal chief, your tribal chief. We got Craig. Hello, my visionary. Hello, Craig. Hoping all is well with you. Um, so drop in the comments. Who do you like to win this game? Do you like Kansas City? Do you like the Chargers? And one listen, also preview of this game. You can find it on my socials, Brown on Twitter and TikTok. And there's _Brown on Instagram, Facebook, on the Portion of the World Facebook page. So you could check it out there. Like I say, previews will be there posted all season of the key games. And even this season, you guys decide like what games you want me to preview. Because I'll be previewing I'll be previewing the Monday night game. I'll be previewing the Sunday night game. But any other games you want me to preview, let me know. And if it's a strong enough consensus, I'll preview it. So all season long, I put the control in your hands. It may sound scary. It's like when you hand power to people you don't know. But like, listen, this is your show. You guys show up, and the least I could do is let you have a say in aspects of the show. So let me know in that regard what you want and what games you want this on the schedule in week 1 that you want me to preview as well. And there's other games on there that interest me. We talked about the first 2 games. Like listen, I'm not saying it because I'm wearing the Falcon. Excuse me, I'm wearing the shout out to the Scott Fishbowl. Shout out to I'll do this so y'all can see the shirt. So you guys don't have to see my face, which might be a great benefit. This is from the Scott Fish. Do amazing stuff. Fantasy Cares. If you can donate, buy some merch. They have merch for all your styles. Check it out. A lot of fantastic human beings work there, and for a lot of fantastic causes. Now, Tampa Bay Atlanta is interesting to me because Atlanta beat Tampa Bay twice, both meetings, and still lost the division. To me, for Tampa Bay, they're not going to forget that. And to me, we're going to see Michael Penix full season as a starter. We're going to see what Todd Bowles throws at him. We're going to see how Baker and his new look Falcons defense with James Pierce and drafting Jalen Walker, drafting Xavier Watts and drafting Billy Bowman for safety. You got Jesse Bates there, signed CJ. This defense is very new look. I feel like we're going to get to the quarterback, and Craig always jumping in with the Kirk Cousins is going to ball out. Listen, if we see Kurt Aloysius Cousins at any juncture this season, then I'll I'm praying for Penix to be healthy. That's all I'm going to say. So that matchup is interesting. Pittsburgh at the Jets. Aaron Rodgers returns back to the Jets where he started at last season. This is going to be Aaron Glenn. You got 2 defensive coaches. You got Mike Tomlin and you got Aaron Glenn. And you have quarterbacks whose skill set, you're not going to ask them, especially Aaron Rodgers at this point in career, to throw 300. Could he? Sure. But it's all going to be about the run game. It's going to be about Jalen Warren for the Steelers. It's going to be about Breece Hall for the Jets. And the number 1 receivers, DK Metcalf for the Steelers, Garrett Wilson for the Jets. And I'm very curious to see because, Arthur Smith loves to run the ball. The Jets have kind of felt like they're going to kind of run the ball as well. But I'm curious to see how they use those pieces because the offense, needed help. The defense felt great. But, Justin Fields, who I've always said is a starter in this league. I've always said that. And I'm glad he's getting his shot in for the Jets. And we have John dropping in predictions. The Falcons are going to win in a close game over the Bucs. I will say it would be a close game. Yeah. It feels like it's going to be close. And also, friends and future friends, drop which games are you interested in as well in week 1 and drop some. Give me a prediction It could be a hot take. Give me a prediction on what, biggest prediction, biggest shocker is going to be of week one. Very curious to hear that. And, Cincinnati at Cleveland, like, Cincinnati is going to have a great offense. How is this defense going to play against the Cleveland team that, yeah, they have weapons. They have Njoku, they have Jerry Judy, they have Cedric Tillman. Like, their backfield's going to be interesting. And I was talking to my bestie, Rachel. We were talking about Jerome Ford. And I think we don't know when Quinshon Judkins is going to be available, but so that's more snaps for Jerome Ford. Dylan Sampson, the kid they drafted out of Tennessee. It feels like that's the kind of the way they're going to go, maybe potentially, and they have options there. And Rachel, shocked. I'm really shocked about this prediction. I'm really shocked. She says Vikings win and a Thielen touchdown. Adam Thielen comes home back to Minnesota in the trade with Carolina. I know Rachel's happy. I think she probably low-key orchestrated the trade. And for Minnesota, Minnesota's matchup in week one is very interesting. So their opening game is on the 8th, and they're heading to the Windy City. They're going to face Chicago, a team like the NFC North. It feels more wide open. Where if you look at Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy, rookie, got hurt. Sam Darnold took over. Great defense. Solid run game with Aaron Jones. And you look at Detroit losing their offensive coordinator to Chicago. It's like, how will that impact Jared Goff, if it will at all? How will it impact how the offense is run with Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Craig jumping in. Minnesota just needs a Kirk back. Just needs Kirk back to have the whole. Listen, I'm not saying, oh yeah, they can have him, and they can have him. Like, there's a reason why Minnesota let him go. Like, I'm just putting it out there. So you didn't hear it from me. You didn't hear it from your boy. You didn't hear it from me. So Detroit is going to play Green Bay. That has game of the week potential. Simply because Green Bay, obviously Micah, we don't know if Micah's going to even play. Like, dealing with with injury issue. And if anything, he's not going to play a lot of snaps because you do have to kind of practice. And then and Craig says, "How dare you? Coles will be boycotting you now." Look, I'm not upset. Like, if anything, I'll give my Cole cash to my other bestie Jamie, and and she'll put it to good use. So I'm not. Listen, Cole. If Cole wants to come at me, Coles can come at me. So we have Hussein here says, "Can I ask you a question for fantasy?" Yeah, sure. Go ahead. If you have questions for me, drop them in the chat. Like, if you have questions, you have thoughts, you have opinions, drop them in the chat. I'll make sure to shout you out on the show. And so keep that in mind. And so if you guys want to do that. So, and then we look at another Baltimore at Buffalo. Like, two MVP quarterbacks. And oh boy, it's going to be fun to me. It's going to be very interesting to me. Baltimore could have beaten Buffalo. And listen, the whole Mark Andrews thing, we remember microcosms of moments. Like, this could be a potential preview of the AFC Championship game. It could be back in Buffalo. It could be in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium. But this feels like, if this is the AFC Championship game, I'm good. So, And so here's Hussein's question. He says Patrick Mahomes or Jordan Love. And Rachel, if you're still here, Bestie, listen. She knows her fantasy. Like I said, she's gonna be on the show in the coming weeks. I'll have people come on here because sometimes you don't want to hear me yap all the time. Patrick Mahomes or Jordan Love. Um, that's a good one. Now, if you ask me today, I I actually like Jordan Love's matchup with that Detroit defense. Even though Aiden Hutchinson's back, um, I think that the Chargers defense, like I said earlier in the preview, they don't get enough credit for being how good they are. And so if you had to go a route, like if those are the two quarterbacks you have to choose from, depending on what league you're in, I would low key lean Jordan Love. Actually, it may not be a popular opinion, but and then John says, "Hey, I picked Mahomes, boy." Yeah, like to me, there's a lot of elements in it. I lean toward Jordan Love simply because I kind of like his matchup better against the Lions defense as opposed to the Chargers defense with Jesse Minter there. So like I say, to each his own. To each his own. So thank you for the question, Hussein. Like if you have any more questions, drop them in the chat. Thoughts, opinions, drop them in the chat. I much appreciate it. And then we have Hussein jumping in saying that would work. I got Tucker Craft as my tight end, and that would be a nice stack. Also, yeah, like Tucker Craft, like in a lot of draft leagues, you can get him at great value. Like because when you look at the Packers receiving core, like if you have Matthew Goldenstock, great. Um, Dubs, huh? If you like Christian Watson, but like Tucker Craft is getting a lot of much appreciated, and to the point, yeah, the Chiefs are out of the country, yeah, so they're in Brazil, and then they're playing a very good Chargers defense, in my opinion. And then Craig jumping in, Ludacris, and I want to know what's your fantasy. Oh, we can't sing that song, Craig. We can't sing that song on this show, not because of the copyright issues, but like that song, I can go deep on that song, and it's going to get a lot of people in trouble. You're trying to get the visionary in trouble, and then I envision myself having to do this show probably somewhere, in international waters. And we got Rachel jumping in. Flex Jerome Ford or Zay Flowers. I'm helping a friend. Crazy to tell her Ford. No, I don't think it is. I really don't. Because here's the reality. For Ford, it's like I said, it's the matchup. It's the Bengals defense. And plus Kevin Stefanski wants to be more run centric. And I think Jerome Ford will get a preponderance of the snaps because, like I said, we don't know if the league's going to suspend Quinshawn Junkins. We don't know how they're going to split between Ford and Sampson. I think Ford takes majority of the snaps with Nick Chubb and, obviously in Houston. I would, if those are the two options, I would actually go Ford because with Zay Flowers, the question is going to become in that matchup, in that Baltimore Buffalo matchup is what is the question is going to be, they might run it a little bit more. And how much of Derrick Henry we'll see, how much of James Cook we'll see. And I don't know how often Zay will, Zay might have a great game, but I think Ford will have more opportunities to help you out in defense because I think he'll have a preponderance of the snaps and carries. So thank you, Rachel. Thank you for that question. Like I said, it's not crazy to tell her Ford. It's not. It's not. And we got Craig Fine. A real question. How badly is Rachel going to beat me in the never-ending draft this year? Rachel, how bad are you going to beat my tribal chief? Listen, I hate to choose sides between my bestie and my tribal chief. I never want, I don't want to be in the middle. I don't want to be in the middle. It just takes some time, a little bit of in the middle, out the ride, elbow to elbow will be, yeah. I'm not gonna sing the whole song, copyright. And we got Hussein jumping in saying, "Are you a Falcons fan?" Yes, I am. Thank you. Yeah. I said, like I said, this is a Scott Fish designed shirt here. Check out, check out him. And then and Hussein says, "I love Ford." Yeah, I like him this week as well. And then Craig, we got an answer. We got the old thinking cap there. We got the old thinking cap. So nothing to think about. So it's like that draft is crazy. The never-ending draft league. Well, so you're telling me the draft never ends? Like I know it's obviously that's what the never-ending draft is. Because see, here's to me. Like this is would be one of my biggest all-time complaints, and it may be nothing. It may be absolutely nothing, but like the never-ending story, like that movie ended. It was an hour and a half movie. So just saying. Um, and let's see, we got Lord. Oh boy. Okay, I'll go to Hussein's question. How do you feel about Drake London this year? I got him in fantasy and need to have a field day. I think Drake's gonna have another great year. I think he's gonna finish probably wide receiver, probably wide, in the top 10 fantasy, potentially top 5. I think the Falcons offense, I think it's gonna be great. It's depending how many, Penix's first year, Zach Robinson. We're gonna see Penix has the arm, Drake has the talent. Drake London's always a safe pick, in my opinion. And then Craig says there's 160, 200. Jesus. Or in the words of Jim Ross, by God. By God. And John says, Craig is the wise man and we are his bloodline. Like, yeah, listen, I'm Sep. So is John, are you Bronson Reed or are you Braun Breaker? All I ask is the questions. And then Rachel jumps in and says, nope, it's not done. Man. See, when it says never ending, that's a better advertisement than never ending story. Just saying. And then we jump in. It's kickers, IDP, team deep. Look, it's just hearing about it just sounds exhausting. Like I don't like I'm not even gonna ask how to be a part of it next year. Like if there's I'll be game for it, but 100, 200 rounds, okay. And then John says, of course, Braun Breaker. Of course, you're Braun Breaker. You like to spear, you like to jump and leap and spear people. So, wait, you started the draft in January? Jesus. So you listen. I'm curious to see you guys' roster because you guys are probably getting some third. Like some of y'all might have a Kirk Cousins on y'all roster. You might have some deep wide receivers. So, oh boy, let me catch my breath. And so we're gonna keep talking a little. We're gonna stick to football. We're gonna talk a little college football week 1 recap. If you guys still have NFL questions or anything like that, drop them in the chat. Be more than happy to answer them. And like I say, throughout the season, we're gonna have guests, and I'll have multiple guests. And if I I'll have the same guests come on weekly. So I'm looking forward to that. I love having. And then Craig said, "Yeah, please, Craig, send me the screenshots because I'm man, Jesus, oh boy." So let's shift to college. Week 1, big weekend. Ohio State beating Texas 14-7. Like people are like, oh, Archman is the end of the world. He went 17 of 30, a touchdown interception. Listen, imagine you're not the greatest experience in the world, and you're walking into the Horseshoe, one of the toughest places to play in college football, and you're playing the defending national champions, a lot of returning starters, and you walk out of there and you lose by 7. That's not the worst thing in the world. Arch Manning is going to be fine. Texas is going to be fine. Will Texas stumble? Potentially, maybe. But I trust Sarkisian, Arch Manning. They'll be fine. Ohio State's Ohio State. I think they'll be fine. And then John jumping the old line here. FSU pulled a middle upset over Bama. I wasn't expecting. I thought Bama would run them out of the building. Listen, a lot of people did. And here the people who bet. Here's the thing: the people who bet on FSU, like plus, it was like plus 13. It was probably a little higher than that. If you bet like FSU straight up, like you made a lot of money. If you bet Alabama plus anything, you won some money. I don't know what to say about Alabama, but there's two key stats that stand out to me in that game. Like FSU had 230 rushing yards against an Alabama defense. That seems odd, given that we've seen Nick Saban defenses for almost the last 2 decades just have a solid front four. And then for FSU to essentially run them out of Doak Campbell, odd to see. There's things to fix down there in Tuscaloosa. Kalen DeBoer already on the hot seat. Listen, it's going to be interesting. And so I'm curious, what were you guys' thoughts on college football week 1? You still have NFL predictions? Drop them in the comment. While like, listen to, subscribe to this episode, every episode of Sports in the World podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. So leave a comment. I'd appreciate it so much. And here's another key. Alabama had 8 penalties to FSU's 4. Like, my 3 philosophy is turnover, tempo, time. The big one out of that is turnovers, especially when they happen in Alabama. The penalties really hurt them at the end of the day. It's like 31-17. You can't make mistakes. You're on the road. Ty Simpson wasn't terrible, but he threw the ball almost. He had almost 50 pass attempts. Alabama, we're not used to that. We're used to running a run-centric sort of offense with the hog mollies up front of the offensive line. So that was a bit of a shocker there in that regard. Listen, LSU goes into Death Valley, to the other Death Valley in Clemson, beats Clemson 17-10. Garrett Nussmeier, 28-38. He was one of 2 quarterbacks returning this season who had 25 touchdown passes. We'll talk about the other quarterback. It's going to tie into Brown's big picture at the end of the show. Like, the keys there, LSU, more total yards. They had 356 total yards to Clemson's, I believe, 261, 230. And then the keys to first downs, LSU had 25 to Clemson's 13. Clay Klubnik did not look great. He looked very pedestrian. And listen, as a Gators fan, I'm not supposed to say nice things about other SEC teams. Like Texas, to me, they're in the SEC, but I always think them as Big 12. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. If Brian Kelly wants to get this thing off his back, he has a national championship contending team. He had a lot of them when he was at Notre Dame. But if this was a team, veteran quarterback, great defense in SEC, that always helps. If you're going to make it, like, if there was a team that you could kind of ride, look at their schedule, LSU could be it, because they have a quality win. Because Clemson's going to be fine in the ACC, and that's only going to help LSU. If Clemson goes on a run, it only helps LSU, to me, in the long run. So it's just something to think about there. What else I had on the chart here? I had one more. I think, Notre Dame losing to Miami 27-24. I'm not going to say the U's back. They held Jeremiah Love to 10 carries and 33 touchdowns. CJ Carr didn't look great. He was, 3 sacks by this Miami defense. Notre Dame, 2 turnovers. Listen, when you're you can't have turnovers when you're on the road, but when you're on the road and you're playing a team like Miami, you can't have turnovers. You have to win. Like I say, turnover, tempo, and time. Like even if you lose one of those, you can lose a game. If you're down in both of those, in two of those categories, you're absolutely cooked. And I kind of felt in this regard watching the game. I'm like, Miami looks interesting. Mario Cristobal, does he have it figured out? I'm not saying Carson Beck is the guy. Like I'm not gonna like his stat line is not nothing you throw out. When you're replacing a guy like Cam Ward, the number one overall pick in the NFL draft, it's a lot of a big shoes to fill. So so that's kind of the college football roundup. Tell me, what are your thoughts? Like in your comments, who's your favorite college football team? Because I don't think we'll be talking about it all season. We'll have people, amazing people on the show, talking about it, and we have John jumping in, like John saying NFL week is going to be a lot of fun. Agreed. Notre Dame beating Miami was kind of a shocker because I had picked Miami to win. Yeah, I think Miami beating Notre Dame, but it was very shocking. And we got my guy Berto in the building. We gotta get Berto on the show too, because Berto, like, check it. Like, listen, Berto, like I'm gonna take a little pause with the cause here. Talk about this man here. If you go to his YouTube channel, check out his work. He's gonna be doing for the Falcons all season. Check out this man. He talks about prospects. He talks about he's 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 absolutely amazing at what he does. Absolutely amazing. And then we have I'm only one, like Call Away, like the Charlie Puth song. Berto loves to sing it, by the way. And he says, and we got John saying, I bleed red, white, and black. So red, white, and black. So would that make you a Georgia fan? I don't know, because a lot of teams have the same color scheme. So I'm not being facetious when I ask. I'm really curious. But Virginia, like Berto, going back to Virginia, like I saw what happened against South Carolina. I saw what happened. Like Berto, how are we feeling about the Hokies, man? How are we feeling about Brent Pry? How are we feeling, man? How are we feeling? Like like I don't know, man. I don't know. And then like Berto, that's my guy right there. Yeah. And more, like I say, more throughout the season. We're gonna be talking college football. We're gonna be talking a lot of great stuff. Now, I was gonna talk a little baseball. I don't know if you guys in the chat want me to talk baseball. I'll put baseball on the back for a minute. I want to talk about the AL and MVP races. Yeah, Berto, it does feel like Virginia Tech. Like I think post like Frank Beamer, like when you lose a great coach, like retirement, I think it's like the next guy. Like FSU went through that post Bobby Bowden. Like Jimbo had success after Jimbo left. Mike Norvell was left with a mess, and hopefully, I'm not going to root for Florida State because the Gator fan in me will not allow me to do it for a lot of ethical reasons. So, but it feels like for Virginia Tech, like they got to get it right. It's a good football school. The basketball program is there, but Virginia Tech being good in football, I would like to see that again. And we got John here talking, I'm a Georgia fan through and through, like I'm a Falcons fan through, even though the Falcons calls me pain. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. It's like when they find out, like I'm a Gators fan and a Falcons fan, they're like Kyle Pitts' name. And listen, that's why literally the name of my fantasy teams are Kyle is not the Pitts. I'll be a Kyle Pitts stain, Pitts. Yeah, I see what I did there. I caught myself. Ba. Like I'll forever and ever be a Kyle Pitts fan. Like even if some games he doesn't want to hustle, some games he doesn't want to block, I'll support him. Because listen, it's just like some relationships. Sometimes you just gotta, stick to you gotta stick it out. You gotta, you gotta hold out. I guess is the better thing to say. But I do want to slip in and talk a little baseball here. We're in September. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. This time of year, baseball, it doesn't get any better. Playoff race, like to me, one of the great things that baseball has done like adding the wild card. It keeps teams invested where 15, I'd argue like 10 years ago, half, like I could argue maybe a quarter of the teams would already be out of it. And now it feels like out of 32 teams, you get like over half, maybe like 20 could still be in it because certain things happen here. But I want to talk about the MVP race because it's interesting to me. Because we have for the NL, it feels like it's Ohtani and Kyle Schwarber. That 4 home run game, like being like I'm a Cubs fan, it's like, man, I always love Kyle Schwarber's bat from the left side. He doesn't get it like the power he gives you from the left side of the plate, like the DH position. Like I think of him like that fits Kyle Schwarber. Like left field, yeah, but DH, I trust it. But let's see, John jumping in. Kyle is not the pits. Kyle Pitts belongs in the pits at a NASCAR race. Oh my God. Yeah, you want to see him out at the Brickyard. He's on the pit crew. What are you doing here? Yeah, it's the bye week. So they got me out here in the pit crew here. So I wouldn't mind if we see Kyle Pitts in the pit crew, like bellissimo. But going back to the baseball, like to me, baseball, like when you're picking MVP, it's similar to basketball to a certain extent, like having a great record matters. Interesting. But as we're talking now, like feels like it's Ohtani. The only advantage Ohtani does is he's pitching. Like I think he's only pitched like the most innings he's pitched all season is 5 innings, I believe. People could correct me in the chat. But here's the numbers. Like I look at batting average, home run, RBI, slugging, and I look at WAR, wins above replacement. Now, Kyle Schwarber leads in home runs when comparing to Shohei Ohtani. He has 49 home runs and 119 RBIs as we're talking. He probably has one now, so you can add more if you want to. Ohtani leads in batting average with 279, slugging at 610, and a WAR of 5.8. To me, if you ask me, like Kyle Schwarber and like Ohtani has, I think 46. He has 46 home runs. So Ohtani, like, is hanging around solely because there's a gap in RBIs. And you can like that's cool. He can get 100. He'll get 100 RBIs. He'll get over 100 RBIs at some point. But Kyle Schwarber, we could be talking. My guy could be talking historic numbers there. He already has 119 now, and depending on like the Phillies, they're in the NL East, and if that's in the division is like over wrapped up or anything, but how long do you play them? Like you're gonna start seeing like like the old SNL skit from the George W. Bush, like strategery. Strategery is going to be in play here, and we got Kyle from the Phillies going to win that. It's interesting because it's a legitimate debate because the Phillies right now have the better record than the Dodgers, and how much does a team's success factor into individual success? Because we've seen in the in basketball where that does matter significantly. Like a lottery team, their best player, they could have, unless it's like an absolute historic Wilt Chamberlain like season, they're not going to sniff MVP. But if you're winning and you're competing for a championship, you're going to get the consideration. And the stats do matter, but having a successful team does matter for the individual award. And so it's kind of split there. Now you look at the AL side. Cal Raleigh has 51 home runs, the most for a catcher. Like it's. I think when I had Haley Murphy, who's absolutely amazing, and she'll be on the show as well this year and throughout the season. Like she talked about catchers, and Kyle. Listen, Cal Raleigh's having an excellent season. 51 home runs, 108 RBIs as of now. His team, however, second place in the West, floating with the idea that they're still in it. They're in the hunt. But Aaron Judge is hitting 325, 43 home runs, 97 RBIs, 671 slugging percentage. He has a 7.4 wins above replacement to Cal Raleigh's 5.7. Why do I talk about wins above replacement? I talk about wins above replacement because wins above replacement is such an important stat, whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball, football, it matters because it essentially means if you take that player out of the lineup, like that's how important they are to the team. So something to kind of think about there, folks. I'm gonna take a little drink here. Okay. Okay. And so that's something to think about. Like I think Aaron Judge, listen, the Yankees they're second in the AL East. Like to me, the AL. Listen, the Cy Young. It tears like what we're seeing from Scooble. My goodness, like he's on. Listen, he's gonna win back to back. The last guy to do that was some guy named Pedro Martinez, and that guy's in the Hall of Fame. I'm saying Scoobal's on that trajectory to be in the Hall of Fame. I think he's a generational talent, and for Detroit looks like a contender, and Scooball and that pitching anchoring that rotation, absolutely amazing. And I've always said, I don't know, like who are your you guys in the comments? Who do you like for AL MVP? Do you like Kyle Raleigh? Do you like Aaron Judge? Who do you like for AL MVP? Do you like Kyle Schwarber, or do you like Shohei Ohtani? So drop that in there as well. And before we put a button on the show, before we get to Brown's big picture, just a reminder to listen. I'll be posting previews, NFL previews all season. The previews for the Thursday night game between the Cowboys and the Eagles are up on my social media, Twitter and TikTok at Ladarius_Brown, Instagram Ladarius_Brown. Go to my Facebook page, type in Sports in the World. You'll see them there posted there as well. Check it out. I love this. I'm back in the mode of things. I took last week off because last week was, my mom's it was her service. I saw her one last time. She'll always be a forever part of this show because if not for her, I wouldn't be doing this with you. It's where, like, you want to talk about number one supporter. She's a number one supporter. And so I miss her. I apologize. I didn't mean to go on that tangent, but so any show I do from now is always going to be dedicated to her and her belief in me when sometimes I didn't believe I could do this. You guys' support means the absolute world to me as well. Now, shifting gears. Brown's big picture. We're going to talk about. There was one college football game I left out on purpose. It wasn't to kind of be like, forgot about it. I wasn't trying to be, that deceitful or any kind of way. But it's TC. It was TCU and UNC. Everybody, all the great Tar Heels was in the building. MJ was there. Lawrence Taylor was there. Roy Williams was there. You had like Randy Moss. He went to Marshall and he played briefly at FSU. He was in the building. It was a start for UNC football. Now, if you would have told me this was for basketball, I'd have believed you. But this is for UNC football because it's Bill Belichick. And the Bill Belichick era kicking off in Chapel Hill against TCU, who was favored, by the way. Who was favored? 3.5. But they blew the doors. It got so bad during the broadcast. We saw Kurt Herbstreit's dog, Peter, in the broadcast. And I'm like, it's like when you got to find material and blow it, like we see Peter, like man. And they actually had a clock on when UNC starting quarterback from the last time he threw a completion. That's how bad it was for Bill Belichick's opening night. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bash Bill, but like I said with Arch, they could turn that around. For Bill Belichick, this is the reality. We've seen a lot of all-time great coaches go from college to the NFL. Bill Walsh from Stanford. We saw Denny Green, Stanford, and have solid career. Bill Walsh, Hall of Fame coach. Denny Green, a great coach for the Vikings, for the Cardinals. We've seen Jimmy Johnson leave the U and go and have success with the Dallas Cowboys. So we've seen that. And we saw, like, even Nick Saban's time wasn't terrible, but I think Nick Saban always was. He's a college guy. And this is what leads me to the Browns' big picture here. Some coaches are built to be college coaches, and some are built to be NFL coaches. And you can see that because Urban Meyer, successful college coach, didn't last a full season at Jacksonville. It was downhill fast. And notice that he went back to announcing. He went back to Fox to do that. He's great at what he does there. For Bill Belichick, the NFL, after decades, over 2.5 decades over at New England, the NFL, there was openings, but he went to UNC, who, by the way, Bill Belichick replaced Mac Brown, almost the same age. Think about that. He had to come into this program. He brought Mike Lombardi, the GM, because there's GMs in college now, college football. They had to replace. They had to get 70 players, I believe. 70. And people are like, Bill Belichick's going to turn around UNC. No. And then we got John out here saying, "Good old Bill got taken to the woodshed." Man, you guys are just. I love you guys. But it goes to show you that, to me, the greatest NFL coach of all time. Like you can debate me, we can, but he's the greatest coach of all time. And I always say that, oh, well, he had Tom Brady. You know how I judge a guy? Like, when Brady got hurt, Matt Castle took over. And I said, somehow, that was the year, I believe, they lost the division to the Dolphins. And I think they were 11-5. If you're a Patriots fan, you can look it up for me if you want to. But I'm like, that's a great coaching job. And then people talk about, oh, when Tom Brady went to Tampa, his team got exposed. No, what happened is that they didn't have a backup plan. So Cam Newton came in there, didn't work out. They had Jarrett Stidham. They went through, and COVID was hard for a lot of teams, but New England got hit the hardest because a lot of their great players didn't play that season. And I feel that, it's not making an excuse, but nonetheless, he goes to UNC, has to rebuild, and and people were ignoring a TCU team. Remember I said there were two quarterbacks who threw 25 plus touchdown passes the season before he returned? Yeah, the other guy was Garrett Nussmeier. The other guy was Josh Hoover, TCU quarterback. He went 27-36, 250 yards, he had 2 touchdowns and an interception. Here's how you know. Listen, key stats: TCU 542 total yards to UNC's 222. 3 turnovers for UNC, just 1. The aforementioned interception by Hoover for TCU. First downs, 29 for TCU, 10 for UNC. 7-12 on third down. UNC, 1 of 10. They were beaten expeditiously. If this was a trial, man, UNC would be guilty of just maybe not showing up and ignoring TCU. Like, TCU was favored by 3.5. 3.5. And I think a lot of that is out of respect for Bill Belichick, because 70 new players. Okay? Like, we see turnover in the NFL, but not to the degree where, like, over half your roster is overturned. Even in college, it's not unprecedented, but 70 players you had to go out and get transfers, and you have to figure it out, spring ball, and you have to figure this is going to be Bill Belichick's greatest challenge. And to John's point, listen, 6 Super Bowls and 9 appearances, yeah. Like his resume, like people could say, oh, listen, he took Tom Brady. Feel like, oh, Tom Brady helped him. He drafted Tom Brady. Like, I'm just throwing that out there. Like don't be throwing shade at Bill. Like, oh, it wasn't for Tom Brady, he wouldn't be. Listen, I can make that case for a lot of dudes. Because a lot of players made coaches look good. And some coaches made players look good too. You can figure that out. I'll let you guys, just like if you were in study hall, I'll let you guys talk amongst yourselves when it comes to that. So my point is that, do I think Bill's gonna have success? He's Bill Belichick. Like, you look at his NFL track, he was head coach of Cleveland. You know, he had Cleveland when they were not great. He led them to the playoffs. He went to, he worked under Bill Parcells for the Giants. Won a couple of Super Bowls there as the defensive coordinator. You look at his resume, Bill's going to figure it out. The question's going to be, the only difference is that in college, the games are less. So you don't have the greatest. Bill's going to figure it out. UNC could turn it around and make a bowl game. Could Bill be one and done? Maybe. But I think Bill's at the point of his career where he took the UNC job. He just wanted to coach, and the NFL said no. Because even UNC recognized like how great of a coach Bill Belichick is. And whether it's, but like I said, he has to adjust from being a pro coach. He brings the experience. He can coach these kids. I'm not going to dispute that. It's adjusting to the era of NIL. It's adjusting to a whole era of college coaching that Bill Belichick, he was in the NFL. A lot of things changed in college in terms of the coaching and the role. And he's pushing 80. But I think Bill's desire to win, he's gonna figure it out. The defense is gonna be fine. And listen, they don't play Miami. Like, I believe they'll play Clinton, but they don't play Miami, which is, when you don't play certain teams in your conference, it helps your schedule look pretty good. I can see 6 wins on there. I can see them as a bowl team. They'll figure it out. But we have to understand the reality that when they went out there week 1, they faced a very experienced TCU team who, like I said, they were favored by 3.5. They were favored. Even against the Bill Belichick team, which seems unprecedented, but they were favored. TCU was. And Sonny Dykes kind of said that, like, no one talked about TCU, and nobody did. It was all about Bill Belichick. It was all about his debut at Chapel Hill. The fact of the matter is that as great as an NFL coach that Bill Belichick is, the college game is not what it was, I'd argue at even 5 years ago. Maybe 10. 10 might be pushing it. 5 to 10 years ago. But if anybody can figure it out, that's why he brings people around him who do understand it. Like Michael Lombardi, who he's very familiar with. And like, listen, we're messing around. Like his girlfriend or whatever. Like, there's a lot going on in Chapel Hill. But Bill Belichick will turn it around because his track record tells me that he will. And I trust the track record because, like, he's not going to fail at this. I think he's going to figure it out. Even if he's here for this one season, he wants to show that I did great in the NFL. I can do great in college. And that was a gut punch to him. I don't think I don't think he's been beaten that bad in the NFL. There's a couple of games he was, but not a whole lot of them. Where he got like the teams, like the New England teams, they weren't always punched in the mouth a lot. But in UNC, they're in the ACC, they're going to be fine. Could they change it up at quarterback? Could we see Max Johnson, a veteran guy, NFL pedigree, his dad, Super Bowl winning quarterback Brad Johnson? Could we see a change there, or stick with the dual threat quarterback they have? They'll figure it out in Chapel Hill. It's going to be fine. It was because the loss was magnitude because it was in front of a national audience. This was like a 3:30 game on ACC network. It wouldn't be to this magnitude. Sometimes when the spotlight's on you and you don't perform, it just elevates everything to a different level. And friends and future friends, that's this episode of the Sports and the World podcast. Thank you to everybody in the chat who joined, and thank you to all who watched and listened. I truly do appreciate it. Once again, catch my previews of the Cowboys-Eagles game and the Chiefs-Chargers game on my social, Twitter and TikTok at @Ladarius_Brown. Follow me there as well. I'll chat with you as well. DM, I might take a while. But the next time we're going to dive into we're probably going to talk more wrestling as well. I want to keep you guys as long as you have. I know you have lives outside of this. I appreciate you taking time out of your day for this. And friends and future friends, until you see and hear me again next time, I'm Ladarius. Be real, be you, be blessed, and be safe from all of us here from the Sports and the World podcast.